So when it gets to any country in the European Union, what they do is to carry out documentary check. They also carry out a physical check and an identity check. So your documentary check, when you give your items to your agents, your freight agent at the ports, at the airports, at any of these airports, what they will do is, okay, let's say you are sending Gary, for instance. Now you sealed your Gary inside nylon, you put it inside the carton, you sealed it in the carton, you gave it to the agent. You know that Gary that you sealed and all that, the Gary itself, it's not like you registered it with NAFDAC, SON and all that. You've not done all that. So, but this is the carton of Gary, maybe it's 5 kilogram. That agent will collect a document, an air freight document from NAFDAC. NAFDAC has an office in every port. So he will process a document for that your Gary from NAFDAC that, health-wise, this Gary is certified to be good. So he will state the name, the details of that Gary, everything on the form. So NAFDAC will give him a health certificate, signed and stamped. The certificate will show that it is, it's something that is coming in through air, like air freight, that kind of thing. So there are also one or two other documents that the agent will collect on behalf of that item like that. So when that consignment, cargo or whatever, when it gets to that country in the EU, they will now collect those documents to check, to look at it. One of those documents, because before you load these products on a cargo airplane, there has to be like a documentation that will state that, this item is 5 kilogram. It contains so. The net weight is maybe 4.8 or something. The gross weight is maybe, so they'll put all those statements there. The value in terms of what, how much, the insurance cover for it, all those things, it will be documented. So they will look at it, because if they see 5 kilogram on the, these documents that is stating the weight of what you say, they will weigh it over there to see that it is actually 5 kilogram rather. So let's now say you put 5 kilogram here, but somehow, by the time the thing goes there, it's now 10 kilogram. They won't allow the item in. They won't allow it in. So all those discrepancies, it's going to be documented and checked when it gets there. So the first thing is documentary check, that they are going to check and all that. The second, they'll do an identity check to actually know maybe who sent the item, who is the person, or maybe who is even coming to collect, clear, who is it sent to, and all that. They'll do an identity check. They'll do a physical check, which is, to actually check the item itself. Is it good? Is it okay? Okay, so sometimes I sent beans to, it's not a European country, but when the beans got there, we made sure nothing happened to the beans. The beans was okay, the beans was good, but the custom guy actually took some of the beans, like, this is the beans, doesn't have weevil, it has been preserved. He just took like maybe a little handful that is not even up to an handful, placed it under the microscope and started to check. It was when it was under the microscope, the guy started seeing something else, that the guy was now like, these beans, he can't allow it. He can't allow it in. So what am I trying to say is that there are different ways of checking. So maybe what you sent is actually okay, it's good, but the custom took extra process to check if that item is not spoiled, hasn't been spoiled. And like I said at the beginning of this class, the EU has very strict regulation when it comes to food import. When it comes to food import, because of all these disease, viral, and all that, because that area, that location on the map of the world is located. The EU countries, they are located in an environment that disease spread very fast and can kill them easily. So that's one of the things that they are really strict about. So some foods are considered to pose a higher risk to public health, animal health, or the environment in terms of diseases, pests, or contaminants. Additional requirements are in place for these foods to control such risk. The requirements include additional documentation, prior notification before arrival of the food item, like additional documentation in some cases. There are some things that you are going to be sending. It will be beyond documentary check, identity check, physical check. They will be requesting for more, documentation. In fact, there was a time we shipped some item because that's containerized. When my client was going to clear, we had some issues with some documents. That document, my freight forwarder had to now go to the office where that certificate was issued to edit. After editing, we now send it back by DHL to my client again, for him to now go on. That took maybe 3 days. That took about 3 days. So he has to wait, then take it, submit another before the container over there could be cleared. So sometimes it happens that way. Okay. So when exporting foods to the EU, you must comply with the general principles of food law set out in the legislature. So this legislation requires that the food is safe and defines what is meant by unsafe food. So it means that the food has to be safe. A food can be safe here and not safe over there. Like what Chinese people eat. If you've seen the way Chinese, what they eat and all that, is not safe for some other people. In fact, even for me, it's not safe. Because like Chinese, they don't mind. Maybe the animal is still alive, they can just cook it like that. I've even seen some animals that they are not dead and they eat them like that. So different things. It doesn't mean the food is bad. It's just that in their own culture, in their own way, it's okay for them. Just like in some other parts of the world, some people eat cockroach, some people eat frogs, some people eat lizard. In Africa or in Nigeria, we don't eat, you don't see people eating cockroach or eating lizard or frogs. There's a kind of frogs that people eat, but it's not the food that is just see around everywhere. So it has to be safe by their own standard too. That you are not just bringing something else. Then. And if you look at in our previous classes where we've been talking about foodstuff export to different locations in the world, we've discussed one thing that developed countries don't want you to bring products from maybe animals that want to go into extinct, maybe animals that they have been declared to be protected by law. All those kind of things. It's illegal and not safe. So the food imported into the EU complies. It has to comply with the relevant requirements that they have. So now this legislation that I'm reading, it covers for if you are shipping out your food product by air freight, or by sea freight, both. It covers for both. But you are just starting out with the air freight of maybe 5 kilogram, 3 kilogram, 10 kilogram, 50 kilogram, 100 kilogram. Much of these food laws it doesn't really affect you that much. Unlike if you are sending it through sea, that one is large, is huge volume. So they won't even allow it to go anywhere. They will check it thoroughly. all the documentation and all that, they will check it thoroughly. So my prayer for you, taking this course also is for you to grow from air freight to sea freight, so that you can start shipping out containers. And how do you start? You just start, just like this Lope was saying yesterday. That's how you start, and you start doing volume. So I've seen lots of people start like that. That what they do right now is containers of food stuff. And before we end this program, I'm still going to also talk to us about how we can really enter into foodstuff export, large volume foodstuff export via sea freight and containers. So, and then where an agreement exists between the EU and the exporting country with the agreed requirements, which are recognized by the EU as equivalent. That is, if maybe the exporting country and the European Union already has an agreement within themselves, and they are working, within that agreement. So importers who consider or have reason to believe that imported food does not meet food safety requirement must act immediately to withdraw the food from the market. That is over there in the EU. That's over there in the EU. Then document checks. For the document checks, this can be carried out and the product cleared before the food products arrive at the point of import into any EU country. To avoid delays, it is essential that all necessary import documents are complete, accurate, and submitted within the notification timelines. So these are just like the checks that maybe your agent, your client over there in the Europe has to, put into consideration. So then you have identity check. This is a visual inspection to ensure that certificates or other documents accompanying the food consignment match labeling and the content of the consignment. So now, after they've checked your documents, make sure it's complete, verify it's accurate and all that. They also do a visual check to inspect or to make sure that every other thing is complete, every other thing that accompanies the food. Like one thing that you must also understand is the physical check. Under the physical check, there is packaging labeling, temperature, means of transport, and all that. But the labeling of your product is very important when you are exporting to countries in the EU. And we are still going to talk about that labeling the more. So the way you label your products, like what is the name of the item, what is the weight of the item, what are the nutrients in the item, when was it manufactured, when is the expiry date for the product, what again, a barcode for your product barcode. If you have an SON number or any ISO, if you have a NAFDAC number, what's the nutritional composition, all those kind of things. Then you have, I think you have the name of the company, the address, their contacts, So your product labeling is very important that, they will check. If you say the product is 500 grams for one, they will want to check, they would like to check if really the product is 500 grams. So if you say it's 500 grams, then it's not 500 grams. Then you start having issues, they start asking questions. Then they start asking you questions and all that. So sampling for analysis and laboratory testing may be done, and any other check necessary to verify compliance with food law. Yes, to make sure that maybe there is no restricted item, flavor, all these things in the products that you've sent in. Specific food law requirements that you must also note, you must note them. You will need to comply with specific legislation if you are exporting this type of food to the EU, if you are exporting them to the EU. Food of animal origin, that is meat, poultry, fish, eggs, milk, dairy products, honey, etc., or food containing this as an ingredient. Food of non-animal origin, which is fruits, vegetables, nuts, spices, desserts, bakery products, and all this. Then composite products, food containing both processed ingredients of animal origin and products of non-animal origin. So these are like the three categories of major three categories of food entering into the European Union. These are how they are categorized. So for us, what we must know is that for meat, milk, and their product, if you are sending this to any country in the EU, know that you cannot bring meat, milk, or their products into the European Union from countries outside the EU, So if the only exception, there are locations for the exception of people that can bring that into EU. So like meat, I've actually said meat is a no-go area when you are doing your foodstuff exports. Don't do meat at all. You can do your catfish because you add value to the catfish, and you can do it in a very hygienic way that even it passes every form of standard that they can set for it as a product. So that one is actually very, very possible. But for meat, because like someone has sent me a message before, the CEO of a company, they produce kilishi. So she was trying to talk to me about how they can break into some markets to export their product. And I told her that meat, when it comes to meat, because all these countries, they have their own farm. They want their farm to do well. They want people to consume the cattle, the bulls, and all that coming from their farm. So they put heavy restriction on things like meat. Then meat, if you are not careful, it is not like fish. So if you are not careful, it's going to be contaminated. So there's no way it won't be contaminated by the time it's getting to another destination. And if you look at it from maybe Nigeria to countries in the EU, it can take 4 weeks, can take 5 weeks, can take 6 weeks. So these are things to consider. So powdered infant milk, infant food, special pet feed. You can bring this food if they weigh less than 2 kilograms, and provided that they do not require refrigeration before opening. They don't require refrigeration before opening. They are packaged proprietary brand products for direct sale to the final consumer. The packaging is unbroken unless in current use. So one thing about the EU, the second bullet, I want us to look at that. One thing about them is they like proprietary brand products. So they like it when you package your product to the maximum, like to the fullest, making it look unique and all that. You have SON, ISO, NAFDAC, you have, different, so they believe that for you to have all those licenses, certifications for your product, it means your product is top notch. It's not going to give anybody, it's not going to harm anybody. It's not going to, stress anyone. So that's like the standard they maintain in the EU. And if you can build your product to actually be acceptable by countries in the EU, I can assure you that that product is made. That product is made. So that's one thing, and that's why when we're talking about physical check, that's why I was making emphasis on labeling. So whether you are printing your label as a sticker or whether you are actually doing an automatic print on the nylon, your product details on your label is very, very important. For fishery products, it includes eviscerated fishery products and certain shellfish, such as prawns, lobster, dead mussel, dead oyster. You can bring this to the EU in combined quantity. Even if you want, you can bring them alone, you can bring them in combined, which is less than 20 kilograms. Or the weight of one fish, if this is higher. So you can just bring one of these fish if it can weigh as high as maybe 10, 15, 20 kilograms. You can bring all these products in also, it's accepted. There is no weight restriction if you are coming from, Iceland and other. So other animal products, you have honey, live oyster, live mussel, snails and other. You can bring in up to 2 kilograms if you want to send them to the EU. So processing and packaging, no plastic. So let me quickly, you can bring in up to 2 kilograms. So let's say what you want to send is 20 kilograms or is 10 kilograms. That means you can break it into piece by piece. If your agent is telling you that maybe you can't send more than so to countries in the EU. So what you can do is you can break such products. You can break it into maybe three cartons so that it gets there, but each package will not be more than the 2 kilograms that was being stipulated. So when it comes to your packaging process, so let's talk about that. So one thing is no plastics. Plastics is not really acceptable in the EU. So they have various environmental policies, various issues when it comes to environmental protection. So plastics are not really accepted or allowed. In fact, if you are using plastics as even developed countries that use plastics as a packaging material, they face a lot of issues when it comes to environmental regulations. So, but paper bag, you can use paper bag, you can use sealed nylons and cartons. But all these major plastic like we use here, don't use it for packaging your product. So, but paper bag is very, very okay. Sealed nylon, everything, you can place it, seal it off inside a bigger carton. So make sure your item products are well packaged and processed. So like we said even from yesterday's class, also we learned one or two things about how to process. So you want to make sure your process are hygienic, well hygienic, and they are very, very good, very okay. You already know maybe it will last 6 months, 9 months. So what you've written expiry date of 6 months on, it won't be in the 3rd month, then it's spoiled, then it has spoiled. No. So you make sure all this detail, you make sure this is well detailed. Then when it comes to the EU, hygiene is very important. So you cannot emphasize that. So I've been talking about it. Hygiene is very, very important to make sure, because some of these products can be checked under microscope, can be checked, and all that, especially when they know that the product is coming from Africa. Africa is considered as a 3rd world, as like the backyard, the dumping ground of the world, that kind of thing. So when they even hear that the product is coming from Africa, they are scared. They are looking at that, oh, maybe it's bringing malaria, maybe it's bringing parasites, maybe it's bringing virus, disease, and all that. And, even though most of these parasites and all that, it comes from there, it actually battles them there more than here. So, but that's the way they look at it. And they'll put in extra check just to make sure what you are bringing in is very, very good or very okay. So make sure to write details of the buyer on the package upon final packaging at the port or logistics, at the shipper's office and all that. Okay, so now what I'm going to say is that for your product, your labeling, make sure to put a good brand representation. Make sure to put a good brand representation. Let your logo be there. Let the name of your company appear well. The address, the phone number, the email, your website. So if you want to access this kind of market, make sure you have a website on there so that, let's say, a custom looks at the product, an officer just looks and no, first product is this is not good. But sees your website, you know, they have their system running every time. So maybe just quickly check the website to check your what's it called, the website of your company, quickly went through the details, see that fine. You can just use that to pass in your products to say that they are legit, they are registered, you know, instead of when they can't find anything about it. So that is also like very important. Then check this out. According to reports, rejected food items in 2015 and 2016 include brown and white beans. This was in 2015 and 2016. About over 60 products from Nigeria were rejected. Melon seeds, palm oil, mushroom, bitter leaf, ugu leaf, shelled granules, smoked catfish, crayfish. Others are live snail, brown ginger, melon seeds, sesame seeds, peanuts, chips, dried meat, and fish. Don't forget, these products, a lot of them are accepted in other places of the world, like the US, like Canada, like Australia, Malaysia, you know. So even Kenya, South Africa, and all that. So, but during this period, it was rejected by the EU. Data showed that some of the contaminated and substandard, are substandard. They are substandard food products from Nigeria. They were discovered in the European Union countries like the Netherlands, Germany, Ireland, Denmark, Poland, Greece, Finland, and Italy. That was where they discovered, these food products. So NAFDAC stated that the rejected products did not meet the prescribed regulations and quality standard specified by the receiving countries. So according to NAFDAC, some of the foods or the food items are illegally imported. That is, imported by people over there. They do not have label, proper packaging, health certificate, and other entry documents. So, I've spoken about it in previous slides now, about labeling, about proper packaging. I've spoken about health certificate with your freight agent. So now you see most of those data we checked just now that that I was being asked that which data is this, and some of those data we checked about the EU Nigeria business. Not all those figures are 100% true because it is the one they are able to document. That is the one that got into the country legally. A lot of these products are still smuggled in, still smuggled in without proper documentation. So a lot of smuggling still happens. So maybe I'm traveling to a country in the EU. My box can have maybe clothes somewhere, books somewhere. So in a particular place in my box, I might put gari, put ogbono, put food that people will not see. So they are not hard drug. I can't be arrested for it. They are just food, just that I'm supposed to declare it, but I'm not declaring it. So you have several people doing this kind of illegal activities too that doesn't actually get into the books of international trade. So they can't calculate it with it. So it is said that foreign agents discovered in some of them, after analysis, were glass fragments, rodent excrement, and dead insects. So it is not just about illegal entry or maybe lack of documentation or papers or licenses for those products. What made it to be rejected is basically these foreign agents that were found after close examination of those products. It's not really, it's not really about those papers and all that. So let's say the products, even though they were small good things, let's say the quality, they were standard, it was very okay, it was nice, everything was good. They won't reject it. What they will just do is to find whoever they caught that did that and let them know that, okay, for this items, if it's coming in, these are the proper ways, these are the proper things to do, proper things to do. So that's one thing. That's the reason why I listed this out, so that you can see the reason why some of these products were rejected. So when you are dealing with countries in the EU, or maybe you innovated on your own products, like maybe you produce this special kind of locust beans, locust beans powder, or onion syrup, what again, maybe turmeric syrup, ginger syrup, that kind of thing. Maybe you even did some garlic mix up with some other spices just to bring out your own unique flavor. Then you are now looking at breaking into the European market, countries in the EU. These are the things that you need to factor in: packaging, labeling, lots. When it comes to the EU, what the EU wants is that just be getting endorsement from everybody, licenses from everybody. Maybe Nigerian Medical Association, they endorsed it. NAFDAC endorsed it. Standard organization, they endorsed it. You give it to these ones too, they endorse it. So they just want to see those kind of things, because in their own country, they deal with facts. In their own country, they deal with facts, they deal with research, they deal with things that are of intelligence, that they will know that, oh, this person is not just lying. So it's not like this person maybe is actually saying that there's also nutrients in this product, but that's not what is actually contained. So all those things they will check it out. Now, it is noted that high levels of chemical contaminants, some of which were used in fumigation, like aluminum phosphide, diclovos, dimethols, all these chemicals were also discovered in the product. So apart from the animal excrement, like rodents, excrements like what was it called? Like weevil, like glass fragments found in those products. They also found chemicals. The report stated that microbes such as, Salmonella, aflatoxin, and mold growth were also discovered in some of the products. So if you say you want to export catfish, smoked catfish, in very large quantity, you have to make sure that it's not something that, because it has been in the container for maybe almost 2 months, then by the time they open that container, there will now be mold on the catfish. It will be rejected. So that's just like waste of money. It will be rejected. So the report added that majority of the products have also been placed in the market when they were discovered to be unfit for human consumption, while those that had already reached the market were recalled. So you can see what has been happening to Nigerian products in countries in the European Union. So the European Union is a very huge market and big market. Nigerians really want to, conquer that market. But the truth is, for you to really conquer that market, you need to produce something that is of standard. There are some products that when you use the right machinery to produce them, they can't spoil. Not in 1 year, not in 2 years. If you use the wrong machineries to produce them, they will spoil because they will be contaminated. They will be contaminated, but it won't show early. It will show maybe after a year. It will show maybe after 6 months. So instead of maybe the product staying up to 3 years before spoiling and all that, you just see that in 6 months it has already spoiled. So that's also very important. Then product labeling. Labeling products is very crucial for products that wants to go to the EU. It's very, very crucial. I've spoken about it. So when exporting to the EU, because they will look into what are the content of the product, everything that makes up the product, everything that makes the product unique, as written on the label. They are going to check it all out. So it's actually very important that you make sure that whatever you are putting on your label is, is not, you don't say, okay, this contains so and so, so and so, but that's actually not what it contains. So they want to make sure that your label is very good. Apart from it's very good, it's factual, it's well detailed, so that it makes your product look professional. Then if you are going to label, make sure it is detailed. Some of the brand, name of the brand, product name, the flavor of the product, the color that is actually inside, the content inside, the nutritional facts, the nutritional details. Make sure it's also inside. The maybe Standard Organization of Nigeria, NAFDAC, your health certificate, barcode, manufacturing date, expiry dates, the company details, everything. Make sure it's on the label. Then if you can get a quality assessment report from a laboratory, this will also help when targeting countries in the EU. So if you can get a quality assessment report from any lab, from any department of health that can check, through the product. They will check the product, they will analyze it, they will do a quality assessment of the product. Once done, they will now be able to say that, okay, we've checked the product, we see that there's 10% of this nutrient, there's 20% of this nutrient, there's 15, there's 30% of this nutrient in the product. So when they see all that, it will convince them the more. So that's what the quality assessment report does. It will convince them that, oh, this is actually right. This is actually right. So that's what that does for you. You can do that from anywhere here. You can do that from, let's say, your Chamber of Commerce that you already joined here, cooperative, small business association, so all these kind of endorsement licenses and all that, they help a lot when you are targeting. Another thing you can also do is, if you are a member of a country in the EU who already established a Chamber of Commerce with Nigeria, you can get a letter of introduction that will be introducing your company, your product to that country. So that can also help. Then make sure your weight is 99.9% accurate. I don't know how you want to do that, but make sure it is accurate. Everything you are packaging, you are sealing inside the nylon, make sure that it is accurate. Make sure your weight is accurate. If you say it is 500 grams, 100 grams, make sure it is what you say it is, so that they don't see discrepancy, then they delay the product from entering their country. So that's very, very, very important. That's very, very important. Okay, next. Now we have less than a minute, so in case we're out, I think we're almost at the end. Okay, so product packaging. Since we are discussing mini exporting via air freight, you can make sure you process your products under strict hygienic environment. So I already said eliminate use of plastics. Don't use all these big, thick thermoplasts, plastics and all that. Label accordingly and ship accordingly, so that they don't revoke your item, even the name of your company.